It's time for Good Idea or Bad Idea.
First up, let's talk about the SAVE Act. The Republicans in Congress are pushing a new bill that would nominally be a steroidal version of voter ID, but would also disenfranchise 21 million Americans who would lose the ability to vote. The new revelation this week is that Republican activists and advocacy groups are pushing Republican senators to turn this into a talking filibuster, to force Democrats to stand on the floor. Mr. Smith goes to Washington style to try to put a stop to this. And then they want to override the filibuster to force this down our throats. Matt, is this a good idea or a bad idea?
There's so much about this that's a bad idea. First, the filibuster and removing the threshold, bad idea. The reason it's a bad idea is simply because when Democrats are in power, and they will be in power soon, we don't want this, Republicans. Let's be clear. Now let's talk about the SAVE Act. Also, bad idea. Yes, we need voter ID. You need more than a Costco card to be able to vote. But this is a piece of legislation looking for a problem. And the reality of it, it's really just trying to set the stage that when we do get our ass kicked in November, we're going to try to blame some demon about elections and stolen votes that isn't, in fact, what's going to be true. This is all just a bad idea.
It's a good idea for the Republican Party. It's a bad idea for everyone else. I wrote much more about this in a new article out today in Newsweek that I'll also repost on the Worth Knowing Substack. So I don't want to step on that. And I have a feeling that we're going to be talking about this a lot more in the weeks to come. So I'd refer everyone to my article. Good idea for Republicans who are playing politics with the issue. Bad idea for the rest of us.
So at the State of the Union, Trump mentioned that our wonderful Vice President, J.D. Vance, is going to be upholding the fraud fight. And I think the quote was, in the amount we could save in fraud, we could balance our budget. The first salvo in this fraud fight, Minnesota, where we are now withholding funds until Governor Walz says that he has a plan to fight the fraud that was stolen by Somali pirates, as Trump referenced in his State of the Union. Matt, good idea, bad idea?
The question setup is inadvertently a little Trumpian, and it's agree with me if you think that mom and apple pie is good and you think illegal immigrants shooting everybody is bad. Fighting fraud is good. This is a bad, ugly political maneuver. This was the entire reason for the incursion by ICE paramilitary forces into Minnesota in the first place, was to try to make Tim Walz and Democrats in the state look bad to murdered American citizens later. We're seeing the consequences of them playing politics. They said, oh, we'll withdraw the ICE forces if you'll agree to give us your voter roll files. The whole thing is a transparent, political, partisan, craven exercise that's absolutely horrible. Bad doesn't say it well.
Look, we need to fight fraud. And there is waste, fraud, and abuse in Washington. First of all, I thought that's what Doge was going to do, but now I guess we need J.D. Vance to do this. I love the idea of fighting fraud. I hate the way we're going about it. I think this is just another shit show political battle where we attack the states and we use partisan politics to do it. So I'm actually going to say this is a bad idea.
President Trump's nominee for Surgeon General, Casey Means, has declined this week to definitively rule out a link between vaccines and autism. For the record, decades and decades of scientific studies show that there is no causal relationship between vaccines and autism. Matt, is Casey's declination a good idea or a bad idea?
Oh my God, this is just, it's a bad idea. Come on, guys. As Republicans, I know we don't always trust the science. The science is pretty clear on this one. And the primary role of government should be actually to protect Americans, and vaccines have worked. We've long seen it. And so it does feel like we could just stand up there and say, no, there is no link, and stop being so fucking weird on shit.
If you are the mumps, this is a great idea. You are pro mumps and you are anti-vaccines. If you are the measles, this is a spectacular idea. If you are rubella, you are pro Casey Means. For the rest of us, this is a fucking terrible idea. We can move on.
So the Republican majority is razor thin in the House. Now, Rep. Tony Gonzalez, who is in a primary in Texas, has been under fire lately for a scandal. And this is a tragic scandal. It was a staffer. She's killed herself. It is absolutely horrible. There are some Republicans out there who are out, like Massey and Nancy Mace and some others, who have called on Tony Gonzalez to resign his post. He is saying he will not. There are other Republicans out there saying he absolutely should not resign because, well, we would lose the majority. Matt, good idea, bad idea.
For him to resign. So the context here is that Representative Gonzalez was having an affair with this staffer who later committed suicide. And the text messages that have come to light are troubling. Clearly, there was an inappropriate relationship going on here. Mike Johnson, I am no fan of House Speaker Mike Johnson, has said, let's let this play out. Let's let the voters decide. I actually am going to zig on this a little bit and say it is a good idea for him not to resign. I am a judicial system purist. I believe that if there is a crime at issue here, it should be adjudicated in a court of law with rules of evidence, with cross-examination, with a judge and a jury. I think if this is a political scandal, which it clearly is, in addition to being a horrible tragedy, then that is for the voters to decide. If, as evidence emerges, especially through an ethics investigation in the House, if the House then decides that this person is unfit to sit in the chamber, then he should be unseated through that official process. Now, politically, obviously, Mike Johnson is not going to do that because it would imperil the Republican majority. But that is what should happen.
I don't disagree with any of that, but I think it's a bad idea that he doesn't resign. There is a primary, and there's an opportunity in the next week or so for voters in Texas to choose someone. The right thing is for him to resign. Let the voters make a decision on the other candidates. We're going to win the seat. We're going to keep the majority. I think it's a bad idea. I think it's a bad look for Republicans.
I will say, I agree with your point that as a human being, what he did was scummy. And if he had any self-respect, he would resign. Right. Speaking of people with no self-respect, we have to talk about the viral video that emerged, including on the Worth Knowing YouTube channel, where you can see this video of FBI Director Kash Patel shotgunning beers after U.S. hockey men's gold medal winning championship in the Olympics. Let's take a look. Oh my goodness. Matt, was this a good idea?
Great idea. I love this. America just won the gold medal, first time since 1980. There's a lot of excitement there. Yeah, they want to make a lot that he probably flew a government plane over and why is the FBI? And there's a lot of this out there. We're celebrating in America. And if I could shotgun a beer as well as he did, I would say, yeah, let's go do this. But it's a great idea. Celebrate the victory, celebrate America. Let's just have fun.
I'm with you. I think this is a great idea. We all know that Kash Patel is an unhinged lunatic with scared deer in the headlights eyes at resting state. And I think living up to his brand is absolutely fantastic. It would have been better if this had been, let's say, not a government-funded flight over there for a little excursion to benefit himself and be a fanboy. It would have been better if he had partied with, say, a Democrat and said, you know what? Politics is politics. We're all Americans here. Let's celebrate an American victory. That would have been better.
And I know you caught this while you're watching the news. On Fox last week and this week, new ads have been popping up with Donald Trump selling brand new Trump watches, as he says, from your favorite president. So Trump time, $500. There has been a little bit of an uproar, even from Fox News viewers who have said, okay, this feels a little inappropriate given where we are in the economy and the prices. Matt, he's hawking goods as president. What do you think?
Not just a good idea, a great idea. Unlike many of Trump's current scams, grifts, frauds, and emoluments, this is something that people can understand. He is hawking chintzy watches. Everyone knows that this is what carnival barkers do and people who sell knockoff merchandise on New York City streets. If you've ever, I grew up there. If anyone's ever visited, easy to find the folks who sell the knockoff goods. This is who Trump is. I love it when he reveals who he is. This isn't hard to follow, like prediction markets or cryptocurrency or the other scuzzy ways that he's making of billions of dollars while the rest of us experience high prices and economic struggles. This is straightforward. I am a grifting con man. You're welcome. Great idea.
Yeah, I think the Trump watches can go with the ties and the shoes and all the great apparel that you can have with Trump. As a free market capitalist, I love the idea of people being able to sell whatever garbage they want to sell. There is a point where I think the president of the United States should not be an infomercial kind of guy. And so I don't love this, but so I'm going to go bad idea. But
You think? Yeah. Let's wrap it up on this one. Our favorite judge, perhaps America's greatest jurist, Judge Aileen Cannon, last seen in the Mar-a-Lago classified documents case, has popped up again. In the Mar-a-Lago classified documents case, this time blocking the release of special counsel Jack Smith's report on findings. This is the kind of report that is traditionally released without problem by special counsels throughout time. But Judge Cannon has found a tortured legal reason, despite many legal scholars saying that this is absolute stinking MAGA horseshit, to block the release of the report. Matt, is this a good idea?
No, this is a bad idea. This is a horrible idea. We should have transparency. We should be able to see and read these things so that we can actually determine whether or not Jack Smith acted appropriately or not. Look, Trump was swept into office because he wanted to drain the swamp. He was swept into office the second time based on transparency and this attack on lawfare. Release the damn reports, stop blocking this stuff so we can actually see it. Same with the Epstein files, same with the Jack Smith report.
The only thing about this that I think is a good idea is that it adds another entry into the eventual judicial impeachment of Aileen Cannon. It is another brick in the wall of how she is a completely unfit, incompetent MAGA hack of a non-jurist who never should have come within spitting distance of the federal bench.